Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Monday Night Raw tonight was from the Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and the show just ended. And Monday Night Raw tonight, I thought it was a decent show. Was it great? No, but there's a lot of stuff that I liked on the show tonight. I thought the wrestling was decent. You had a change in commentary because Kevin Patrick is no longer on commentary for Monday Night Raw. It is now Michael Cole and Wade Barrett, who them two were, of course, the commentary team for SmackDown. So you have Michael Cole on Monday Night now, along with Wade Barrett, and also Michael Cole is going to still commentate on SmackDown along with Corey Graves. And it was a breath of fresh air for Monday Night Raw with Michael Cole on commentary because Kevin Patrick was absolutely awful on commentary. So I'm glad WWE made that change. Just couldn't tolerate Kevin Patrick on commentary. Kevin Patrick is good at, interviewing superstars backstage, but for commentary was just awful with him on it. But tonight on Monday Night Raw, we had a fatal four-way, and the winner will get to face Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. We had Chad Gable versus Tommaso Ciampa versus Ricochet versus Matt Riddle. Shinsuke Nakamura took on Bronson Reed. We had Shayna Baszler. She had taken on Zoey Stark. We had Ludwig Kaiser versus Otis. We had the return of the New Day. We had Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston end up returning. Kofi Kingston, of course, was injured, so he made his return tonight on Monday Night Raw, and they have taken on the Viking Raiders. And the main event, you had a six-man tag where you had Cody Rhodes, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Seth Rollins versus the Judgment Day. Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Dominic Mysterio. Your typical Judgment Day main event. It's like every single week, the main event of Monday Night Raw has the Judgment Day in it. Watch next week. Next week, the Judgment Day are going to be in the main event again. But overall, Monday Night Raw was a decent show tonight. It wasn't bad of a show. But before I get into the Monday Night Raw review, I just want to give my thoughts on SummerSlam on Saturday. Didn't do a full review of it, but SummerSlam, I thought it was very mediocre, in my opinion. Like when the show started, just that first half of the show was good, and then as the show progressed, I don't know, the crowd just kind of felt deflated, and just the show I thought was just very meh, in my opinion. But I liked how, Ford Field looked, but the song that they used, Born to be Wild by Steppenwolf, I thought that was cool. It's a classic song. But this is the first time that WWE has went back to Ford Field since WrestleMania 23 in 2007. And according to WWE, this was the highest grossing SummerSlam of all time. This was WWE's highest grossing event outside of WrestleMania. And had a reported attendance of 59,000. That number had been disputed with an actual paid attendance of 51,477. The 59,000 was 59,194. So this was the second largest crowd in SummerSlam history after SummerSlam 1992 at Wembley. But my thoughts on the matches, I thought Logan Paul versus Ricochet was a very good match. Logan Paul, I may not be a big fan of Logan Paul, but he was pretty good in the match against Ricochet. Of course, this match had to go on first because Logan Paul had to get on a flight to Texas to watch his brother fight. But overall, it was a good match. Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar, your typical, Lesnar match. Suplex, F5. Match was boring. And then at the end of the match, you had Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar end up shaking hands, which could possibly be. There was a report saying that Brock Lesnar could be done with WWE after SummerSlam. But who knows? But 4 months of no explanation as to why Brock Lesnar ended up attacking Cody. And then we had the Slim Jim SummerSlam Battle Royal, which was won by LA Knight because it came down to LA Knight and Sheamus. Of course, LA Knight won the SummerSlam Battle Royal. Obviously, he didn't get nothing, for the win. He got, what? One Slim Jim. And that was that we seen on the WWE.com exclusive. Shayna Baszler versus Ronda Rousey in that MMA rules match. Absolutely awful. Boring. It sucked. But Shayna Baszler ended up winning the match. She made Ronda tap out. But this match could have been a lot better if it was not an MMA rules match. It would have been better if it was a fight pit match. So we had Gunther versus Drew McIntyre for the Intercontinental Championship. It was a good match. Obviously, Gunther retained the Intercontinental Championship. Of course, WWE wants Gunther to break Honky Tonk Man's reign when he was the Intercontinental Champion. He already beat Macho Man Randy Savage's reign when he was Intercontinental Champion. We had Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight Championship. This, in my opinion, was the best match of the night. This was a very good match. I liked how Balor had, 7 written on the side, of his arm here. And Seth Rollins, of course, retained the title. You had your Judgment Day, getting involved there. You had Priest and Dominic getting involved. And you had Damian Priest throw in the briefcase, which led to Rollins hitting the stomp on Balor. So that was a wrong move on Damian Priest. So now there's going to be tension against Priest and Balor at some point. But overall, it was the best match of the night. And Seth Rollins, of course, retained the title. You had Bianca Belair versus Asuka versus Charlotte. Triple threat match for the Women's Championship. Boring, in my opinion. And I thought that Charlotte was going to win. Obviously, everybody was thinking that Charlotte was going to win and be, 15-time, Women's Champion. But fortunately, Bianca Belair ended up getting the win. Asuka ended up, spinning the mist in Charlotte's face. I was like, oh, great, thank God. And then Bianca Belair got the win. And then after that, you had Io Sky coming out to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase, to which she did. And she ended up defeating Bianca Belair. So Io Sky is your new women's champion, which I am happy about. Glad that Io won the women's champion, won the women's championship. And then, of course, the main event was the Tribal Combat match for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship and recognition of the Tribal Chief of the Anoa'i family, Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso. Absolutely boring this was. It was very slow. The crowd didn't even give a shit about this match as it went on. This match went 36 minutes. And you could tell the crowd was not into it. And Michael Cole and Corey Graves on commentary looked like they weren't interested as well. Because, you heard them, doing the commentary, and they just didn't seem interested in it. It was almost like they were going to fall asleep on commentary because they were like, oh, well, Roman Reigns here. He's working on Jey Uso. He's a tribal chief. That's how they sounded on commentary during this match. Even when the commentators sound like that and they do not give a shit about the match, you already know the match is awful. And of course, in the end, Jimmy Uso turning on Jey, realigning with Roman and, Sikoa with the bloodline. I'm like, I knew that was going to happen, because they had Jimmy, dressed up in a black hoodie, thinking, oh, who attacked Jey Uso? Obviously, I knew it was going to be Jimmy. But overall, awful match it was. But mediocre SummerSlam it was this year. So that's my thoughts on SummerSlam. So now we're going to get on to the Monday Night Raw review. Monday Night Raw opened up tonight with Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes ended up making his way out. Of course, crowd went, whoa! So Cody got into the ring. The crowd started chanting for Cody. Cody got on the mic. He ended up saying, so Minneapolis, what do you want to talk about? Cody ended up saying that he wants to talk about one of their own. A beast that had his claws sharpened here, educated here, and became champion here. The University of Minnesota's own, Brock Lesnar. Cody ended up saying that he has had the privilege, honor, and misery of standing across from the beast and surviving him. That's one thing. He ended up saying what happened next, he could have never imagined. So, of course, it showed the image of Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes shaking hands after the match. So Cody ended up saying that he had a conversation with his mother this morning about the situation. He ended up saying that he told her he was shocked. And his mother ended up telling Cody ended up saying that she said, dummy, don't you know what just happened? Brock Lesnar acknowledged you. So Cody ended up saying that after SummerSlam, he feels on top of the world. And that he feels like he can beat anybody in the world. So then out came the World Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins made his way to the ring, and what the fuck kind of boots was Rollins wearing? He was wearing these oversized yellow boots to the point I'm like, what are those? And of course, the crowd's going, whoa. So Cody and Rollins end up standing across from each other in the ring. Rollins walked to the side to retrieve a mic. Of course, crowd still singing, whoa. It's like sing-along time here. You got the crowd singing along to Cody going, whoa. And then when Rollins comes out, whoa. So Rollins end up shouting, Minneapolis, welcome to Monday Night Rollins. Rollins ended up saying that the last time he came out here to address the future of the World Heavyweight Championship, Cody was the first man to walk down the aisle and get in his face. So Rollins ended up asking if he heard right when Cody said he feels he can beat anyone in the world. He ended up saying if that's the case, why don't we put that feeling to the test? So that kind of set up, once again, Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes, going back to their feud. So then the Judgment Day ended up coming out. We had Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley, and Dominic Mysterio. No Finn Balor there. So, Senor Money in the Bank, Damian Priest, walked out alongside Rhea Ripley, the Women's World Champion, and the NXT North America Champion, Dominic Mysterio. Priest got on the mic. He kept saying that they think they run Monday Night Raw, but it's the Judgment Day. He kept saying that the Judgment Day dictates what happens with championships around here. More specifically, he does. Senor Money in the Bank. So you know what I'm saying? We already have the most dominant world champion here in Rhea Ripley as the women's world champion. And we also have the NXT North American champion, Dominic Mysterio. To which Dominic's name, of course, got boos from the crowd. So you know what I'm saying? That Cody might be done with the Beast. But Dirty Dom isn't done with him. He kept saying that Dominic is the workhorse, and he will be defending his NXT North American Championship down there. So Dominic ended up getting in Cody's face. Dominic went to speak, and of course the crowd ended up booing him. You got piped in crowd noises, of course. So then all of a sudden, Finn Balor attacked Rollins from behind. Dominic started to beat down on Cody, and then Sami Zayn ended up coming out. Sami Zayn then clotheslined Priest out of the ring. Cody ended up pinning Dominic with the Cody Cutter. Balor got decked by both Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes. And then Rollins ended up booting Balor out of the ring with that oversized yellow boot that he was wearing. So Cody stood on the middle turnbuckle, and he ended up challenging the Judgment Day. Cody ended up saying that he has a solution for all this. He ended up saying there are 3 of them and 3 of us in the ring. He ended up saying tonight in Minneapolis, him, Sami Zayn, and Rollins will face the Judgment Day. So the crowd ended up cheering at that, and that was how the segment ended. But overall, I thought this was a decent segment to open Monday Night Raw here. You know, Cody Rhodes coming out there, you know, talking about, you know, his match with Brock Lesnar, how he came out victorious, and, you know, him saying that his mother, you know, said, oh, Brock Lesnar acknowledged you. And of course, Seth Rollins coming out there, you know, WWE teasing us that we're going to go back to him and Cody, you know, going at it. But decent segment. And then we saw Ricochet. Ricochet was complaining to Adam Pearce. This was earlier in the day. He was complaining to Adam Pearce about Logan Paul using brass knucks at SummerSlam. Because that was how Logan Paul ended up winning the match against Ricochet. So Chad Gable, Matt Riddle, and Tommaso Ciampa walked up. Pearce ended up saying that he's going to make a fatal 4-way to determine who will face Gunther next for the Intercontinental Championship. So Chad Gable ended up saying that we're in his home territory. Of course, Chad Gable, hometown guy. And Gable ended up saying that he'll teach Gunther a lesson that he'll never forget. So pretty much that was that. So we had the Fatal 4-Way Number 1 Contenders match. This was the first match of the night. Ricochet versus Matt Riddle versus Tommaso Ciampa versus Chad Gable. Winner gets to face Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. So, but this was a good Fatal 4-Way match. So, match ended up starting. Ricochet ended up drop kicking Chad Gable. And they were trading pins for 1 counts. The crowd was behind Gable, of course. Hometown guy. Ricochet ended up taking Gable down. Ciampa and Riddle started going at it. We had Gable and Riddle left in the ring. Gable picked the leg of Matt Riddle, but Matt Riddle quickly ended up twisting out because Gable was going for the ankle lock on Riddle. So Ciampa ended up decking Gable and Riddle, clunking the skulls of both Gable and Riddle. Ciampa ended up getting Gable out of the ring and turned into a springboard clothesline from Ricochet. Ricochet then ended up hitting the standing moonsault, and he ended up going for the cover, and we had Ciampa end up kicking out. Ricochet lifted Ciampa up, but he ended up sliding off. Riddle then ended up crushing Ricochet with a Fisherman's Buster, and Riddle ended up going for the cover, to which Chad Gable broke up the pin. And I forgot to mention, the first hour of Monday Night Raw was commercial-free. So we saw the full match here. So we had Chad Gable end up hitting a DDT, and Chad Gable ended up going for the cover, and Ciampa broke up the pin. Ciampa ended up hitting Gable with a DDT, and Ciampa ended up going for the cover, to which Ricochet broke up that pin. So Ciampa delivered a forearm to Ricochet. Ricochet ended up getting out of the fairy tale ending, and he ended up hitting a snap kick to Ciampa's face, to which Ricochet ended up going for the cover, and Ciampa ended up kicking out. We had Ricochet end up sending Ciampa up, and he ended up going up to the top rope. Riddle ended up cutting Ricochet off and standing on the top rope. Ciampa climbed up after them. Gable ended up coming up, and he suplexes Ciampa, and Ciampa suplexes Riddle, and that turned Ricochet inside out. So we had all four of these guys go down on the canvas. It was an insane backflip slam, which was great. Good spot there. So Gable ended up going for Chaos Theory on Ciampa, but Ciampa ended up getting out. Gable then locked in the ankle lock on Ciampa. Ciampa quickly got to the bottom rope, but of course, no rope breaks or disqualifications in a fatal four-way. So Riddle ended up delivering a knee to Chad Gable's face. Riddle then powerbombed Gable and kneed him in the face. Riddle ended up going for the cover, but Riddle ended up letting go of the pin. Ricochet ended up hitting Gable with a standing shooting star press. Of course, awesome from Ricochet. Riddle then ended up hitting Ricochet with an exploder. Riddle then took Ciampa out with a final flash knee. Ciampa stumbled to the corner. Ricochet put Ciampa on the top rope. He climbed up, and Riddle ended up hitting Ciampa with a superplex. All of a sudden, Ricochet and Chad Gable end up hitting both Riddle and Ciampa with a shooting star press and a splash, which was great. So pretty much Riddle and Ciampa end up getting the knees up to both Ricochet and Gable. And we had a double pin by Riddle and Ciampa, to which both Ricochet and Gable end up kicking out. So the crowd started chanting, "This is awesome." All four men were down. They were trading punches and chops. Riddle ended up kicking Ciampa. Ciampa ended up blocking that. He ended up bending Riddle's toes and stomped on Riddle's foot. So at the end of the match, we had Chad Gable end up crushing Ciampa for a Chaos Theory. So we had Chad Gable end up going for the cover, and Chad Gable ended up winning the match. Ciampa kicked out half a second too late there. So Chad Gable ended up winning the match. So Chad Gable is your number one contender. He's going to face Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. And who knows, Chad Gable could be the one to take the Intercontinental Championship away from Gunther. But post-match, Gunther was shown smirking backstage, and he was watching the match. The crowd ended up giving Chad Gable a loud ovation. Chad Gable ended up grabbing his son, and he ran around ringside with him. And of course, it was cute. Chad Gable's son was dressed like him. Gable ended up kissing his son on the cheek and ended up saying, "I love you" to him. And that was a cute moment, having Chad Gable with his son doing a lap around the ring. That was great. But overall, very good Fatal 4-Way match here. The crowd was really into it. Of course, they were behind Chad Gable, of course, hometown guy. They wanted to see Gable win this. And then we saw Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes was talking with Sami Zayn backstage. And Seth Rollins walked up. Rollins ended up saying that he wants this match, but he doesn't want to be on a team with Cody. Sami Zayn ended up saying that he knows that there are a lot of issues here, but they can take out the Judgment Day tonight. So Sami Zayn ended up saying that the Judgment Day put Kevin Owens on the shelf and that they can deal with the Judgment Day once and for all. So Sami Zayn ended up saying, can they get past all these issues? Cody ended up saying that he's cool. Rollins ended up putting his head down and he thinks about it. He ended up saying, yeah, I'm cool. So Cody and Rollins walked off. Sami Zayn ended up saying, that didn't feel cool. So that was that. So another, can they coexist? With Cody and Seth Rollins. So then we saw The Miz backstage. The Miz was waiting for a photo shoot. So this female photographer ended up saying to The Miz that he'll have to wait. So The Miz was upset by this, and all we saw was LA Knight show and take a bunch of photos. Of course, the winner of the Slim Jim SummerSlam Battle Royal. So pretty much that was that. So Miz had a problem with that. And then we had Shinsuke Nakamura versus Bronson Reed. And the match was just meh, in my opinion. Match started off with Nakamura and Reed locking up. Reed ended up backing Nakamura into the ropes. Nakamura stomped on the mat as he walked around. Reed backed Nakamura into the corner. He ended up applying a side headlock on Nakamura. Nakamura whipped Reed off, but Reed ended up running Nakamura over. So Reed then taunted, doing Nakamura's "come on" to Nakamura. Nakamura started striking away at Reed and took Reed down to the mat. Reed then ducked the spin kick, and Nakamura ended up getting away from him. Reed connected with a back elbow to Nakamura. Nakamura ended up fighting back, but Reed still took Nakamura down. Reed then lifted Nakamura up, but Nakamura ended up sliding off. Nakamura ended up going for a sunset flip, but Reed stood standing there. Reed ended up going for a cannonball, but Nakamura moved out of the way. Nakamura caught Reed with a sliding kick, and he ended up digging his boot into Reed's chest. Nakamura then ended up telling Reed, "Come on!" So Reed ended up charging at Nakamura, but Nakamura ended up knocking Reed out of the ring. Nakamura then knocked Reed into the commentary table. Reed shoved Nakamura away as he got into the ring. Nakamura followed Reed into the ring and hit the ropes, but Reed ended up lifting him up. Nakamura slided out and hit the ropes, but Reed avalanched Nakamura down. Reed then ended up dropping a leaping elbow drop on Nakamura. So Nakamura ended up rolling to the apron to try to catch his breath. Nakamura ended up kicking Reed in the head, but Reed responded with an avalanche off the apron. And then Monday Night Raw went to commercial, was the picture-in-picture. So then, as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Nakamura ended up kicking his way out of the chin lock that was locked in by Bronson Reed during the picture-in-picture. So Reed ended up elbowing Nakamura back. He ended up charging at Nakamura, but Nakamura ended up booting Reed back. Nakamura then came off the second rope with a diving kick to Reed's chest. So Nakamura then started kicking and punching away at Reed, which stunned Reed. So Reed ended up sending Nakamura into the ropes. Nakamura rebounded with a running kick to Reed, to which Nakamura ended up going for the cover, and Reed kicked out. Nakamura went to the second rope. He ended up diving off the second rope, but he got caught by Reed. Reed ended up hitting a snap power slam, and he nearly spiked Nakamura on his head, which that looked really crazy. That looked really scary there, that spot. Reed ended up hitting a run sit-out powerbomb to Nakamura, which he ended up going for the cover, and Nakamura kicked out, which Reed couldn't believe that Nakamura kicked out of that. So Reed ended up going to the top rope. Nakamura ended up laying Reed out with a knee to Reed's ribs. Nakamura then signaled to hit the Kinshasa, but Reed scooped Nakamura up, and he delivered a Death Valley driver, to which he ended up going for the cover, to which Nakamura kicked out. Reed signaled for another powerbomb, but Nakamura ended up getting out of that. So Reed ended up clotheslining Nakamura down. Reed headed up to the top to deliver the tsunami, to which Reed went for the tsunami and Nakamura moved out of the way. Nakamura then followed up with the Kinshasa to the back of Reed's head. Nakamura then ended up going to the corner and delivered another Kinshasa to Bronson Reed. So Nakamura ended up going for the cover, and they go. Nakamura ended up winning the match. Overall, match itself was just very meh, in my opinion. The crowd wasn't really into it. But we've seen Nakamura and Bronson Reed go at it before. And then we saw Adam Pearce and a WWE medical official. And they were with Raquel Rodriguez, Smiley Raquel. And they ended up telling Raquel that she is still not ready to compete. So we had Raquel Rodriguez. She was there alongside Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell, saying, she still can't compete. So that was that. And then we had Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch made her way down to the ring. She had new hair color. It was like half red, half blonde. So she made her way out to the ring as Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we saw Maxine Dupree. She was talking on the phone. Ludwig Kaiser walked up to Maxine Dupree, and she looked disgusted at Kaiser. Kaiser ended up saying to Maxine that he wants to congratulate Chad Gable and inform him that the ring general is looking forward to wiping the ring with Gable. So Maxine ended up telling Kaiser to get out of the locker room. Kaiser ended up saying that she has all the potential in the world, but some people are just better than others. Kaiser ended up saying that he has A+ for everything, and that the guys that Maxine Dupree is running around with aren't. So Kaiser ended up calling Otis a big, disgusting freak. So Maxine then slapped Kaiser. So as Kaiser turned around, Otis got in his face. So Otis ended up challenging Kaiser to a match later on in the night. Kaiser then agreed to the match, and Kaiser ended up saying that he's looking forward to seeing Maxine as well. So that was that. I like how the way that they did this when after Maxine slapped Kaiser, you just saw Kaiser, just feeling that slap, selling it. And then when he turns around, Otis is right there. And then we went back to Becky Lynch in the ring. Of course, Becky was not on the SummerSlam card. They held off Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus for next week's Monday Night Raw. And what Becky did on her social media was, even though she wasn't booked for SummerSlam, she was making lemonade. So she posted a picture of that, to which the lemonade, she had while she was sitting during Shayna Baszler and also Zoey Stark's match. She had a glass of lemonade there. So Becky Lynch stood in the ring, and she kept saying that the man has come around to Minneapolis. She kept saying that she is so close to the end. Becky ended up saying that it has been months of doing everything in her power, and that she has been fighting, talking, scratching, clawing, winning, losing, and overcoming odds, and also failing again. She kept saying that she is tired and weary, but she is also hopeful and ready to put an end to the saga and charade when she finally gets a rematch next week against Trish Stratus, which I hope it ends next week. So she kept saying that it's the greatest of that generation versus the greatest of this generation until infinity, and that there will be no interference from Zoey Stark. So then Zoey Stark ended up coming out. Zoey Stark on the mic. She ended up saying that Trish has already beaten Becky, and so has her. Zoey Stark ended up saying that Becky is afraid of her. Becky ended up asking what she's doing. Becky ended up saying that she knows how good Zoey Stark is, and that maybe she's too good for her own good. She ended up saying that Zoey Stark just wants it easy, and hitched her ride to Trish Stratus looking for an easy ride. Becky ended up saying that Zoey Stark is too stupid to realize that Trish Stratus is dragging her down, and that she is playing second fiddle to someone that won't be here after next week when Becky beats Trish. Zoey Stark ended up saying that she doesn't play second fiddle to anyone. She ended up saying that Becky Lynch is also damn right when she said she is very good, when Stark is very good. She ended up saying that Becky is jealous that Trish Stratus kicked her and picked her up. So Zoey Stark ended up saying that she has mastered this game. So then Shayna Baszler ended up coming out. So Shayna Baszler made her way down to the ring. She had a nasty black eye from her match with Ronda on Saturday. Becky ended up saying that Shayna Baszler looks rough. Baszler ended up saying that you should see what Ronda looks like. Only you can, because she beat her and drove Ronda out of WWE. So the crowd ended up liking that. They were cheering, "Thank you, Shayna." So Shayna Baszler ended up saying that she knows she wasn't originally invited to this party, but she couldn't help but feel like she was referenced when Zoey Stark ended up saying that she is the baddest. Zoey Stark ended up saying that Shayna Baszler is the baddest punching bag of all time. Zoey Stark ended up saying that she'll send Shayna Baszler home with her bags if she steps up to her. So Becky Lynch ended up saying, "Oh, those sound like fighting words." So Shayna Baszler and Zoey Stark were face to face. And that's when Becky Lynch ended up saying that. And Becky was like, "Oh, they should fight in Minneapolis." So Becky Lynch ended up calling out Adam Pearce to make the match official. So then Adam Pearce ended up walking out. He ended up saying, "That sounds like a good idea." So he ended up calling for a ref, and he made the match official. Shayna Baszler versus Zoey Stark. And so that was how the segment ended. But Becky Lynch is out there, and she's making a match. And she calls out Adam Pearce to get it official. So Becky Lynch is a booker here. So then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Finn Balor was shown. Balor was talking with JD McDonough backstage. Damian Priest came up. He ended up telling McDonough to go away because this is Judgment Day business. So Balor ended up telling McDonough that he can stay. Priest ended up asking what was going on with Balor. He ended up asking where he was earlier tonight. Balor ended up saying that he didn't tell them that he was going to jump Rollins. Priest ended up saying that everyone knew that he came out of SummerSlam to help out. Still, even with his help, he lost. Balor lost. So Balor ended up blaming Priest for losing. So Balor and Priest got in each other's faces. Rhea Ripley stepped between the both of them, and she ended up telling them to calm down. McDonough ended up saying that it is not his place, but that briefcase is getting between them. And he ended up saying, "Oh, maybe Priest should get rid of the briefcase." So Balor and McDonough walked off, and Priest wasn't happy about that. But Rhea Ripley ended up keeping Priest back, and that was basically that. But, Balor and Priest, they're possibly going to be going at it. There's tension between them. I guess maybe they should do, well, this was my opinion and what I would do to book this between Priest and Balor. Priest versus Balor. Loser leaves Judgment Day. So we have, Balor, probably losing the match. Priest, goes over Balor. Balor is out of the Judgment Day. And in comes JD McDonough into the group. That's how the way I would book it. Now tell me that's not a good idea. So then we had Zoey Stark versus Shayna Baszler. Match was okay. Wasn't great. So both Stark and Baszler end up locking up. Baszler end up quickly hitting the waistlock takeover on Zoey Stark. Zoey Stark end up fighting up, but Baszler end up taking Stark down. Becky Lynch, of course, was seated at ringside, drinking lemonade, of course, in reference to the post that she posted on her social media of her making lemonade because of her not being on the SummerSlam card. So Wade Barrett on commentary, he ended up saying, there is no bitterness in the lemonade at all. Of course, reference to Becky Lynch's post. So we had Zoey Stark end up getting Baszler in the corner. Zoey Stark ended up hitting a snapmare to Baszler. She ended up stomping on Baszler's bruised eye. Stark applied a chin lock on Baszler, but Baszler ended up quickly getting out of that. Stark ended up digging into Baszler's eye, into the ropes, and stomped on her. Stark ended up hitting another snapmare, to which she ended up going for the cover, to which Baszler kicked out. Stark applied a modified chin lock with her forearm squeezing on Baszler's black eye. Baszler ended up elbowing her, but Zoey Stark ended up taking her down. Stark then applied a chin lock, ended up driving her elbow into Baszler's eye. So Baszler ended up fighting out. She ended up kicking away at Stark, and Baszler ended up hitting a sagittal suplex to Zoey Stark. Baszler then clotheslined Stark out of the ring. So Baszler put Stark back into the ring and connected with a kick to Stark's midsection. Stark ended up booting Shayna Baszler back and ended up hitting a springboard missile dropkick to Baszler. That's when Monday Night Raw went to commercial. So as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Stark applied a chinlock to Baszler. Baszler ended up fighting up and elbowed Stark, but Stark ended up kneeing Baszler in her midsection. Stark ended up sending Baszler to the corner, and she ended up missing an avalanche. Baszler ended up hitting a pair of clotheslines, and then she ended up hitting a bicycle knee in the corner to Zoey Stark. Baszler then ended up hitting a German suplex to Zoey Stark, which was followed by a running kick, to which Baszler ended up going for the cover, and Zoey Stark ended up kicking out. So we had Zoey Stark ended up ripping Shayna Baszler's elbow guard off, but Baszler ended up avoiding a stomp. This was later on in the match. Baszler ended up taking Zoey Stark down. Stark ended up quickly stunning her with a super kick. Baszler ended up turning Zoey Stark inside out with a gut-wrench suplex, to which she ended up going for the cover, and Zoey Stark ended up kicking out. Becky Lynch came out of her seat for that. So Zoey Stark knocked Baszler back, and she ended up jumping as Baszler ended up going for the Karafuda clutch. Zoey Stark ended up fighting out of the Karafuda clutch and sent Baszler out of the ring. Stark ended up taking Baszler down with a plancha, and Zoey Stark got in Becky Lynch's face. Stark ended up putting Baszler back in the ring, and she was yelling at Becky. Baszler ended up applying a Karafuda clutch to Zoey Stark on the ropes. Baszler ended up letting it go. Zoey Stark then snapped Shayna Baszler's arm off the top rope. Stark got into the ring, but Baszler caught Stark and delivered the world's baddest slam. You know, Ronda Rousey's Piper's Pit move, finisher. And she ended up going for the cover, and Shayna Baszler ended up winning the match. Becky Lynch spit out her lemonade just like Triple H, which that was funny. So Shayna Baszler won the match. Overall, it was an okay match. Wasn't great or perfect by any means. And then we saw Byron Saxton. Byron Saxton was backstage with Shinsuke Nakamura. Nakamura ended up saying that he was tired of people getting in his way. But now he won, and that he will carve his own path. So then we had the sound of pipes being knocked over was heard off screen, and Byron Saxton was like, "Oh, follow me, follow me." And all we saw was JD McDonough attacking Sami Zayn, and officials pulled JD McDonough off. Sami Zayn's elbow looked messed up, and pretty much that was that. And as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we had Otis versus Ludwig Kaiser. Of course, Otis was accompanied by Maxine Dupree, Kaiser accompanied by Giovanni Vinci, and this was a quick match here. Otis quickly backed Kaiser into the corner. Kaiser fought out, started punching away at Otis' midsection, but Otis danced and shook it off. Otis ended up getting fired up. Kaiser ended up hooking Otis' head. Otis whipped Kaiser off and delivered a show tackle to Kaiser. Otis then ended up hitting a scoop slam to Kaiser, and he ended up charging Kaiser in the corner, but Kaiser moved out of the way, and Otis ended up going shoulder first into the ring post. Kaiser quickly ended up kicking Otis in the face. Kaiser started clubbing away at Otis' head, and he looked at Maxine Dupree. Kaiser then ended up ripping Otis' face, and he approached Dupree. Dupree got on the apron, and she started yelling at Kaiser. Otis then turned Kaiser around and started punching away at him. Otis ended up hitting a deadlift exploder and avalanched Kaiser into the corner. So Kaiser ended up dropping down. Otis ripped his shirt off, and Giovanni Vinci jumped to the ring apron. Otis ended up suplexing Vinci into the ring, and all of a sudden, Gunther got into the ring. Gunther ended up booting Otis in the head. Kaiser ended up kicking Otis in the face, and Kaiser ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Ludwig Kaiser ended up winning the match. Post-match, Kaiser and Vinci double-teamed on Otis as Gunther watched on. Chad Gable ended up run down to make the save, but Imperium ended up clearing the ring. Gunther stood on the apron and smiled at Chad Gable. So the crowd was chanting for Gable there, and pretty much that was basically that. But overall, quick match this was from Otis and Kaiser. And then we saw Jackie Redmond. Jackie Redmond was outside the trainer's room. Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins end up walking out of the trainer's room. Jackie Redmond ended up asking if Sami Zayn will be able to go on in the main event later on. So Cody and Rollins end up both going to talk. Cody allowed Rollins to take the interview, and Cody ended up walking off. Rollins ended up telling Jackie Redmond that the doctors won't let Sami Zayn go on. Rollins ended up saying that he doesn't know if he can trust Cody. So this might be 3-on-1 or worse. So Nakamura walked up. Nakamura ended up saying that he saw what happened, and he ended up offering his services. So Rollins ended up saying that he respects Nakamura, and he allows him to team up in the main event. So there you go. Nakamura ended up replacing Sami Zayn in the main event. I think Sami Zayn might be legit injured from what I've read in an article. So then we saw The Miz. The Miz was standing in the ring. He looked very unhappy. Miz ended up asking if he's missing something. Is something going on in his head? He ended up saying, what happened to showing industry leaders like him proper respect? He ended up saying that he came to Monday Night Raw to find a guy that the crowd loves in L.A. Knight. Yeah! Miz ended up saying that he's a veteran and locker room leader. He ended up saying that when he first came to WWE a long time ago, he was taught respect. He ended up saying when you come into the locker room, you introduce yourself and shake hands with those that paved the way for you. He ended up saying LA Knight didn't just throw him over the top rope. He didn't introduce himself to The Miz or even shake his hand. So Miz ended up saying that he is sick and tired of the lack of respect. So then LA Knight ended up coming out. Huge ovation. LA Knight is just so over, which is absolutely great. Knight stood in the ring, and he ended up saying, let me talk to you. LA Knight ended up saying that he thought they had a great introduction in the Battle Royal at SummerSlam. But if that didn't work, he'll introduce himself, and everyone was saying, LA Knight, yeah! So Knight then extended a hand to the Miz, but Miz ended up saying no. He ended up saying that Knight doesn't deserve to shake his hand. Miz ended up saying that he's seen superstars like Knight come into WWE trying to ride his coattails. He ended up saying if you take away from the Miz, take away everything, you get LA Knight. He ended up saying that LA Knight is a flash in the pan, the flavor of the month. He ended up saying that the people love LA Knight, and for the next 5 months because he's it. Miz ended up saying that LA Knight is just an Attitude Era fanboy playing cosplay in his ring. So Knight ended up submitting that there will be no handshake. He ended up warning Miz not to take this personally. Miz ended up saying that he's taken everything personally since the beginning of his career, when he was thrown out of the locker room. Miz ended up saying that he's been doing this for 20 years, and what has LA Knight done? Knight ended up submitting this is personal. Knight ended up saying that he has been making himself a dangerous man for 20 years. He ended up saying that he's been clawing and scratching, doing all the right things from the outside, looking in as the company put their money behind the wrong horses, the Miz included. So LA Knight ended up saying that he waited for the right opening. He ended up saying, here is Miz with a 20-year headshot. He ended up saying Miz got that head start because he's safe, and that they knew they could smack him around and kick him out of the locker room. He ended up saying Miz took it, and he ended up saying that the line for him is they weren't ready to take a chance on him yet, and that he's a dangerous man. So Knight ended up saying that they knew if you wanted to smack him around and kick him out of the locker room, that it wouldn't work. Which, of course, he was talking about the Miz. He ended up saying that's the difference between them. So he ended up saying Miz became a champion many times over, and that Miz's career is in the damn toilet. And LA Knight ended up saying that he is on the climb. He ended up saying that if Miz wants to make this personal, he doesn't mind making him a stepping stone. Knight ended up saying that he will walk all over Miz to the main event where he belongs. To which Miz ended up saying that he is the main event, and that Knight is not on his level. Miz is the main event. Sure thing, Miz. When was the last time the Miz was in the main event? So Knight ended up saying that he's looking him in the eyes. He ended up saying that if he's not on Miz's level, he can prove him wrong. Miz took his jacket off. LA Knight ended up preparing for a fight. Miz ended up going to get his jacket, and he ended up throwing his jacket in Knight's face. Miz then attacked Knight, and he ended up going for the Skull Crusher finale. Knight countered that into the Blunt Force Trauma, the BFT. Miz got knocked out by that, and he had his hand shaken by Knight. LA Knight then walked off, and that was that. So we're getting LA Knight versus The Miz. So that's coming up. That's coming soon. So then we had the Viking Raiders and Valhalla. And they ended up saying that they're coming and sacrificing to the gods. So then the Viking Raiders end up making their way out. So pretty much basically, the Viking Raiders were issuing an open challenge for anyone to face them. Thank God their feud with the Alpha Academy is over. So we had the New Day answered the Viking Raiders challenge. So we had Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston end up coming out. Kofi is back after being out with the ankle surgery. And this was a decent match here. We had Xavier Woods starting off against Eric. Xavier Woods ended up chopping and uppercutting at Eric. And then he clotheslined Eric into the corner. Kofi ended up tagging in. He ended up kicking Eric in the face. Xavier Woods ended up hitting Eric with a back suplex. Kofi Kingston ended up splashing Eric, and he ended up going for the cover, to which Eric ended up kicking out. So the New Day ended up hitting some tandem offense on the Viking Raiders, and we had Eric end up shoving Woods back. Woods ended up kicking Eric. Valhalla then distracted Woods. Woods jumped over Eric. Eric ended up taking Xavier Woods down. Ivar tagged in, and the Viking Raiders ended up pulling Kofi Kingston into the ring. Ivar ended up hitting Kofi with a spin kick of doom. So we had Ivar end up knocking Woods to the corner. He tagged in Eric. The Viking Raiders end up clubbing Xavier Woods down. So at the end of the match, we had Woods end up hitting Ivar with the limit break. And so there you go. The New Day ended up winning the match. Overall, decent match this was. Glad that the New Day is back. Glad to see Kofi Kingston, working good here after getting off the ankle surgery and being out because of that. But no ring rust for Woods and Kofi here. And then we had Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch was backstage with Byron Saxton. Shayna Baszler then interrupted the interview. Shayna Baszler ended up telling Becky that she didn't need her help and that she has scores to settle and will be coming for the man. To which Becky ended up telling Shayna Baszler she's looking forward to it. So I guess after Becky versus Trish next week on Monday Night Raw, going to be setting up Shayna Baszler versus Becky Lynch. So that should be a pretty good match there with Shayna Baszler and Becky. So then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, the New Day was celebrating. And they were confused by the presence of Jackie Redmond because, of course, they weren't introduced. Kofi was out with that knee surgery. So they end up knowing what Jackie Redmond was going to ask them, and that it feels great to be back. They end up saying that they're gods in this tag team division, and are back because New Day rocks. So glad that the New Day are back. They give that presence in the tag team division. And then Michael Cole on commentary ended up reporting that Sonya Deville will be out indefinitely because she tore her ACL. So new women's tag team champions will need to be crowned because of this. The women's tag team titles are cursed. Just retire them. There's no need for women's tag team titles. Just put the titles out of misery. But all the best for Sonya Deville. She's getting the surgery tomorrow. So wish Sonya Deville well. Main event. 6-man tag. Judgment Day. Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Dominic versus Cody Rhodes, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Seth Rollins. And this was a good main event, but of course your typical Judgment Day main event in Monday Night Raw is like every single week. We got Judgment Day in the main event. It's a tag team match. Or 6-man tag. Something like that. But what is this? Going to be every single week? A tag team match is going to main event Monday Night Raw? Oh, here we go. Your typical Monday Night Raw main event tag team match. Probably Vince will be going from home since he underwent spinal surgery. Like, oh yeah, give me another tag team match to main event Monday Night Raw. Tag teams should main event Monday Night Raw every single week. So Balor and Nakamura started off, but Damian Priest ended up taking himself in before anything happened. Balor and Priest ended up staring at each other. Dominic tagged in, and Dominic ended up stepping in between them. Nakamura ended up taking Dominic down. He ended up dropping a knee Nakamura ended up going for the cover, to which Dominic ended up kicking out. Nakamura ended up sending Dominic into the ropes. Dominic ended up putting the brakes on and got out of the ring. Nakamura got into position. He ended up shouting, "Come on!" as the Judgment Day stood at ringside and stared at Nakamura. So then Monday Night Raw went to commercial, picture-in-picture. Then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Baszler ended up dropkicking Nakamura in the face. He ended up going for the cover, to which Nakamura kicked out. Baszler applied a front face lock on Nakamura. Priest put his hand out. Baszler was begrudgingly tagging him in. Priest ended up kicking Nakamura, and Baszler ended up attacking at Nakamura. Priest ended up kicking Nakamura's midsection. Baszler followed up with a bicycle kick. Priest then applied a chin lock and took Nakamura down. Nakamura fought up, but Priest ended up decking Nakamura with a punch. He then ended up hitting a leaping elbow and tagged Baszler in. Baszler ended up hitting a slingshot stomp to Nakamura. Dominic came in. He ended up hitting a slingshot senton, like Eddie Guerrero. So Baszler and Priest ended up tagging in. Baszler ended up hitting a backbreaker to Nakamura. Priest followed up with a leg drop, and he ended up going for the cover, and Nakamura kicked out. Seth Rollins ended up tagging in. Rollins knocked Baszler and Dominic off the apron. Rollins jumped over Priest and ended up hitting Priest with the sling blade. Rollins ended up going for a suplex, but Priest fought out of it. Rollins fought back, ended up hitting the Falcon Arrow on Priest, to which Priest kicked out. So Priest rolled out of the ring to recover. Rollins hit the ropes, ended up delivering a suicide dive to Priest. Rollins put Priest back into the ring, and Rollins ended up hitting Baszler with a suicide dive. Rollins ended up going to the apron. He ended up going for a springboard, but Priest punched Rollins out of midair. Priest then hit the flatliner on Rollins, and he threw Rollins out of the ring. Baszler tagged in. He ended up hitting a dropkick into the barricade to Rollins. So Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then, when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Rhea Ripley ended up punching Rollins in the face. So then Rollins ended up turning Dominic inside out with a clothesline. Cody Rhodes and Baszler ended up tagging in. Cody ended up clotheslining Baszler, and he ended up hitting Priest. Rhodes ended up clotheslining Baszler and uppercutted him. Rhodes ended up hitting Priest with a disaster kick, and Rhodes ended up catching Baszler with a snap power slam. Cody ended up going for the crossroads, but Baszler countered that. Cody ended up kneeing Baszler, ended up going for the Cody cutter, but Baszler countered that into a falling elbow drop, to which Baszler ended up going for the cover, and Cody ended up kicking out. So, at the end of the match, Priest ended up hitting Cody in the back with the Money in the Bank briefcase. Priest ended up hitting Baszler with the Money in the Bank briefcase, and all of a sudden, Sami Zayn ended up attacking Priest from behind. Sami Zayn ended up sending Priest over the commentary table. Sami Zayn's elbow was all taped up. Baszler ended up going to hit Rollins with the briefcase, but Rollins ended up super kicking Baszler in the face with the briefcase. So Cody ended up hitting Baszler with the crossroads, and this was all because the referee was distracted. So Cody hit Baszler with crossroads. Cody ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Cody Rhodes, Nakamura, and Seth Rollins ended up winning the match. Post-match, Cody, Rollins, Nakamura, and Sami Zayn stood tall in the ring. Cody ended up trying to celebrate with Rollins, but Rollins doesn't trust Cody. Sami Zayn ended up stepping between the both of them, and he raised both their arms. Rollins pulled away and knocked Cody's arm down. Rollins and Rhodes then shook hands, and they ended up celebrating. And then all of a sudden, Shinsuke Nakamura wiped out Seth Rollins with a Kinshasa. Nakamura then walked off as Cody and Sami Zayn looked confused about what just happened. Nakamura took a deep breath, and he walked off. The crowd started to boo him, and that was how Monday Night Raw went off the air. Overall, this was a good six-man tag match for the main event. But, your typical Judgment Day, they're main eventing Monday Night Raw. It's like every single week, the Judgment Day, are in the main event, and it's a tag team match. Will not be surprised if the main event next week for Monday Night Raw is a tag team match. But overall, Monday Night Raw, decent show, wasn't bad, in my opinion. But anyways, that's it for the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all on Wednesday with the AEW Dynamite review.